I'm just overwhelmed and humbled by tonight. I want to thank the whole SVG team. I want to thank Ken Agart and the whole Hall of Fame committee. Mary Ellen and Mike Ratine are two people that put my name forth, and I'm grateful to you for this honor to be here tonight. I got the call from Ken, it goes back many months ago, and it was a tough day for me. My father had passed away the day before. Ken had had trouble getting a hold of me for obvious reasons. And I knew, because I had worked with my father, we started the business in 1987. I was 24, 25 years old, I'm not certain on the math. And I knew my dad was looking down at me from above and helping. I knew that was going to be the case. But I didn't know he was going to work that fast. It was going to be the next day. So I'm just so touched. It's hard. My dad, he was the money side, he was the business savvy, and he also really knew how to borrow money. I was a young, inexperienced kid that had the drive and the passion and the imagination. We made a great team. I want to thank the team at Paradox. Casper, Jackie, and Jason did an amazing job putting that video together. I'm really happy with how it turned out. As people say, this is tough. You're looking at your life, and this is going to be something that's going to live for a long time, so we wanted to get it right, and they got it just perfect. So I'm extremely grateful. Fletcher was a family business. It was my dad, my sister, and Dan Grange. We ran it, we managed it. Dan was often referred to as Dan Fletcher. Frequently, they called him Dan Fletcher. But I would not be standing here today if we weren't surrounded by additional families that made Fletcher into the company that it is today. Customers, vendors, operators, and the staff. First, customers. First customer I'm going to mention is Neil Flagg. Neil got us started into this business. He brought Joey Carzoli. We went and did Joey Carzoli from the Carzoli Program Productions Carzolis. We did the All-Star Game in 1991 in Chicago. And I wouldn't be standing here today if it wasn't for the two of them. We moved on to the 1991 Stanley Cup. Mike Finicaro called us and said, hey, I think let's do it. It's going to be in Pittsburgh and Minnesota. We're going to do this. And sad thing for us was the first night, the camera did not work properly. Did not have zoom and focus. It had just come off of Prelude to a Kiss. We did motion picture work as well. And the crew, it was a Meg Ryan, Alec Baldwin movie, and the crew had messed up the wiring on the inside. We didn't have zoom and focus. Tim Schultz called me. I was up in the Crow's Nest in Pittsburgh Civic Arena, and he said, you better, and I'll keep this clean. You better get this camera working for game 2, or you're never going to work in this business again. I am not exaggerating. That is exactly what he said to me. We had to get the camera out in a hurry that night. Frank Sinatra was performing the next night. They needed to flip the arena around. We got the camera out, and I found Timmy Cubitt. I was working for Unitel, and he went in and he wired up 92 connections and got the camera working. Otherwise, I would not be standing here today. I'm thankful to all those people. 1991 NBA Finals, Andy Rosenberg, you're here. Fletcher hitched our wagon to Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls in that dynasty, 6 years. But the bigger dynasty that we hitched our wagon to was the NBA on NBC by Tommy Roy and Andy Rosenberg. You created so many innovations during your time period. The slash camera position, I didn't know that that was one of the things that you had created till we were reviewing this and getting ready. That really emphasized the players and made stars out of the NBA players. But more importantly, what Andy and his team taught us, because he had a class full of great people. He had Pat Rondo, Dave Atkins, Eddie Acuno, who's here tonight, Craig Pianko, and Dave Hagan. It was a family to Andy and the whole team. And that family atmosphere became the blueprint of how we ran Fletcher and our operators. I would not be standing here today without that. Michael McCullough was at the NBA at the time. He was in the broadcasting department. Broadcasting departments are so important to us. He invited us to the broadcaster meetings here in New York to show off this new technology. Everybody wanted this new camera, but no one had the money. So I had the idea. I said, okay, let's just do it like the Goodyear blimp. Let's have a sponsor get involved. And we created the Upper Deck Cam. First season we were in Chicago, New York, and Los Angeles. We had Jordan, Worthy, Ewing. We had Gretzky, Roenick, and Messier. But more important to me in the Fletcher Chicago business, Fletcher sports business, was we had a Coney, we had McCarthy, and we had Grange. Getting to know those people changed my life and changed sports broadcasting history. Adam McConey was at Prime Ticket in Los Angeles. Mike McCarthy was at MSG Network. And Dan Grange took the spot of Joey Carzoli, who wanted to go off and help his brother grow program productions. So Dan was in there night in and night out. So Dan Grange, boy, what can I say about Dan? Anybody that's in this business knows I would not be standing here without Dan. Dan was the one that after the Upper Deck deal fell apart, he said, we can make a business of this. People know this camera, they want this camera, we can make a business of this. And he did it. He's an ex-Marine, he's an incredible person, he's quick on his feet, he's quick to impress. I'm fortunate that you know how to run an Atari joystick, so thank you. You grew Fletcher into something bigger than I ever imagined. You propelled it into something that is why I'm standing here today, and again, without you, I would not be standing here. I can't say that enough. The other thing that Dan was good at was managing people. He managed a staff of a number of people at Fletcher. Some of the key people, Ed Andrzejewski, the people that talk to customers, Jonathan Stein, Gabe Aguirre, Mike O'Connor, and then the technicians that prepare the equipment, Phil Humpa and Steve Suzuki, as well as the on-site people that go out and make sure the equipment's going to work, Sion, Brian Lavalier, and Andy Suzuki, the son of Steve Suzuki. One of the great things about Fletcher is almost all those people I'm mentioning, with the exception of Andy Suzuki, have been there for over 20 years. Andy's the same age as my son, and he's just grew up and is working there now. It's a great testament to a great leader and what Dan did. I want to quickly go back to the NBA on NBC, and I'd be remiss if I left out Susan Stone, Ken Goss, Art Parker, and Keith Scamerhorn. Keith's the one who suggested that we should get into the super-slo-mo business. He said, you know what, that's not something that they're going to buy for the trucks. He goes, you can make a good business out of that. So we listened, and we got into it. We brought it to CBS, and we brought it to the team, John McRae, Bruce Goldfeder, and of course, Ken Agard, who's here tonight. Ken had said he didn't like the flicker in the early slow-motion cameras. And there was a new camera that was introduced at IBC, and I called Dan. I said, Dan, call Ken Agard. He wants this camera. We did a deal with him. By 1 o'clock in the afternoon, we ordered the cameras. That's how we started, and it was all on a handshake deal. Drove our bankers crazy. TNT, Lee Estroff and Tom Cox were instrumental in the success of Fletcher and getting it going with Turner. Fox, Jerry Steinberg, who's here, Jerry Gepner, and Mike Davies, vital to the success and the growth of Fletcher. ESPN, Larry Christensen, Wendell Grigley, Mark Quinzel, Dougie Holmes, John Wildeck, and Chris Calcinari. You helped us grow. I'm extremely grateful. After selling Fletcher Sports a number of years ago and Fletcher Camera, I didn't want to retire. I like this too much. This is too much fun. So I joined Fujifilm Fujinon, and I got to create lenses from scratch. I had the support of my factory to say, okay, Tom-san, what should we do? What should we build? We built lenses for the motion picture business. Claudia Miranda used them immediately on Top Gun Maverick. Then we had a new lens, a Cinebox PL. You saw some of the shots up there, that make it look a little bit more cinematic from a sideline cart camera position. I went back to my old friend Mike McCarthy and Mike Fox at Marquee Network, and they used the camera, and that kind of started it off. And then Mike Davies also used it on the NFC Championship game and has found a new place for that. I would not be standing here if it was without them. Then the lens is also getting used a lot on concerts. Taylor Swift had 6 of them on her little show. I want to call out Jimmy Platt, who's first of all nice enough to help me with my video, and Greg Logan and Jim Munn. They believed in me and this new vision of this new lens that we created. They really were able to tell stories with it, and they used it extremely well on the women's Final Four last year. And Jimmy just really accentuated the stars and made personalities out of those players in the camera position that Andy Rosenberg had created in a low slash position. We also got to have good vendors. That's my next family. Those partners, Lori Frost, you saw on the screen, he invented the hothead. He also helped win an Academy Award for the movie Barry Lyndon. You know, incredible man. He also is involved with the Olympics now, with all the specialty cameras. All the camera vendors, he kept making the cameras smaller and getting us higher speed cameras. That was vital to us. I want to thank both Fujinon and Canon for what they did, and a special shout out to SOS Global. You're a tremendous partner to make sure that we get our equipment to the right spot each time. The operators. The success of Fletcher is the operators. They are the key. They're on the front lines. Fortunate enough to have a couple of them with me. Michael Krasnick and Bill Dealey are here from LA. I'm completely touched that you're here. Adam McConey had suggested Michael Krasnick when we first started in LA to be our overhead camera operator. And Bill and Michael have been with us for a long time. We have a number of other camera operators that I got to mention. Johnny Sinise, who's doing a game with Doug Holmes tonight in St. Louis. Jeff Gordon, who's the guy who does all the in-net cameras. Bill Tynan here in New York. Bill Brennan, Sean O'Halloran, David Frazier, Tim Dominic, Jeff Gentile, all of them. Trust me, I would not be standing here today without these guys. Now to my family and friends, my colleagues from Fujifilm, my big boss, Todd Suzuki, Victor Ha, Lee Groger, and Stosh, my Canadian friend, my hockey friend. Your Leafs are going to win one of these days, man. I know that this might be the year. I hope. Another colleague of mine, Zoe Boris, is here, and Zoe worked with me on the motion picture side at Fletcher. We had 2 divisions at Fletcher, the sports side and the motion picture side. And Zoe, we did a lot of great things together. I'm thankful that you're here tonight. Now to my family. My brother David, who's a doctor, and is also a baseball historian. He's written a couple of books, one on Dick Allen and Buck Weaver. Some doctors blow their money on all sorts of things. My brother blows his money on trying to get Buck Weaver reinstated into baseball. My sister Sally, she was my business partner at Fletcher, but she's also my business partner again in another business that now my son, who's here, who's 26 years old, he's kind of got that same thing. He's now the young, passionate, imaginative person. And I'm the money, a little bit of business savvy. He has the idea of turning cameras around and doing a fan engagement thing, which is quite spectacular. Our other business partner, Scott Wally's here, and we're just grateful. My daughter Abby's also involved in this business, and it's really fun to be on the other side of it, having worked with my dad for so many years, having now working with my children and my sister again. That brings me to my wife of 28 years, Cindy Fletcher. All I can say is thank you for coming into my life, and I'm extremely grateful. You're a great friend, and just grateful. Like my mother, my mom had to sign a personal guarantee on the business. That's what happens when you have a small, time family business. And Cindy has signed, a personal guarantee on my son's new business, which I'm excited about. Last, I want to thank my father. That was the last picture up on the screen, was my father and I when we first started in business. This was hard to hear from Ken that I got in this honor, finding out the day after he passed away. I'm just grateful for everything that my father taught me, and I'm delivering the speech tonight using cards, because that's how my father taught me to speak. And I hope I made him proud, and I want to thank everybody here tonight for this honor. I'm humbled. Thank you very much.